G'day, g'day, it's Roger Roadside here saying g'day. Well, we've covered that off. Look, Mo Salah, Mo problems. It is a very, very interesting time to be alive. Obviously, a lot of you would have seen the explosive after-game interview with Mo Salah the other day, with the 3-3 draw against Leeds. Look, it was a cracking game, and again, it was the third consecutive game that Mo Salah was sat on the bench. So, look, I mean, I find it interesting. I'm a Manchester City fan, right? I put that out there. There's been several players that have played for us that I thought were essentially untouchable, but every now and again there was certain instances where, whether their behaviour or whether their performances started to drop off, that coaches started to pin them down, and subsequently they were moved on quite swiftly. You look at Ferran Torres, you look at Edison, you look at to a certain extent like Yaya Toure back in the day. There's no denying that there are times as a player where, if you are the icon of the club, that you are essentially untouchable. But that doesn't last. It doesn't last forever. And what I find interesting is that, these players just magically believe that their skills and their pace and their need to the club is just going to be impenetrable for all day and every day for the rest of their life. I just think it's such a silly way to look at it. And look, I think some of it's obviously the fault of the player, their ego, their attitude, but also some of it's too. I'm sure Mo Salah isn't just alone in the world. I'm sure that he's got his advisors, he's got his people that are close to him, he's got those people that are around him on a sort of private level. I put some of the blame onto them as well. And look, it might only be circumstantial, but I think they've also got a responsibility to him to say, listen, new coaches come in, there's no denying that you have been an icon legend for the last decade, however long he's been there, and you've got the opportunity to, when you do retire, to be remembered as one of Liverpool's greatest. Obviously, there's new tacticians coming in with the new coach. There's new tactics. Maybe let's wait and see how things are going. And look, if they don't go your way, if they don't go our way, then we can look at other options. But we just have to keep putting our head down, being humble and being a nice person. And whenever it gets to a point that we're in at the moment where we're not getting any game time or anything like that, then we'll put our hands up and we'll try to go somewhere else so that we can get some first team football. At the end of the day, these players, I don't know. Look, you probably would have figured it out, but I'm bloody Australian. And when I was growing up, and we obviously had we've got Australian rules football, and I was very heavily into Australian rules football as a kid, and I played it, and it was always about fighting for the badge, and it was always about fighting for the club and fighting for your mates that you're entering the pitch with. And you were never bigger than the club. It didn't matter if you were the best player on the team. It was still all your efforts and everything you did was for the club. And that, I don't know whether that's just a very big Australianism, but what I find over here in the UK and obviously in Europe and obviously with football in general is that it just seems like, look, it's just a bunch of individuals. There's a bunch of multi-millionaires running around. Some of them are great, and they're blessed with some fantastic skill, and they've put in the hard work to get themselves to that level. But they're just dicks. And I don't know, for me, look, it's not to say that there weren't no dicks in Australian rules football, but I don't know. I really liked Mo Salah, and I've got to be honest with you, the way that he's acted over the last few weeks is just, I'm just a bit over it. I'm just a bit, I'm putting you into the camp of you're a bit of a prat. And it's sad because I like Mo Salah, and even though I don't support Liverpool, I still liked him. I thought he was quite a humble sort of bloke. But look, am I wrong? Am I wrong to think that? Are you a Liverpool supporter? What do you think? I know there's been times where I've had favourite players and they've gone on to be a little bit of a dick. I really like Balotelli, but he would just do stupid things like let off fireworks in his toilet. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think I'm being a bit too harsh on Mo Salah? Do you think, it is right that he should be able to voice his concerns? Do you think he's done enough to warrant, essentially being untouchable? Get your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear them. Obviously, I'd love to do this in a live format so we can have a chat and it can be a little bit to and fro. To do that, I need 50 subscribers. So if you wouldn't mind taking the time to subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. And in the future, we can just have a bit of a chin wag and, shoot the breeze. But, if you could get your comments down below, I'd love to hear from you. And also subscribe. That'd be great. Love you all. Bye-bye.